Real quick, this is my alt channel, and my main channel is in danger every day of getting banned as a result of talking with these amazing people very candidly. So please do me a favor and subscribe down below. Helps me out a lot. Get the hell on it, doggone it. Anyways, let's move on to Sweet Baby Ink because I've been seeing the Sweet Baby Ink stuff for weeks, and what I've gathered, I haven't dived into it enough because I've been racing and just traveling the last couple of weeks. I can't even follow anything right now. But Sweet Baby Inc. is a company. Is it a production studio or what is it
exactly? No, it's a consultancy firm.
Okay, and they are pretty much the reason why so many games that utilize them have like ugly female characters, all kinds of ridiculous over the top diversity that makes no sense, and stuff like that. Is that the case?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a relatively small selection of games that they've specifically worked on, but companies like them are everywhere throughout the industry. This is what people need to remember. It's not just Sweet Baby Inc. You can't just get rid of them and everything will be perfect in the video game industry. Them and the companies that are just like them are everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, the insidious effect that they've had on games is unbelievable. They are slowly poisoning the well of creativity in the video game industry.
Yeah, and all it takes, man. You know what it actually does? I feel like it unfairly taints everything around it because I'll be watching a relatively good show or a relatively good movie, and a character will say something that I mistake for one of those forced lines, and I'm like, oh fuck, here we go again. And it's actually not even related to the current. Like
yes, no, I totally get because people become hyper aware of it now and they become really sensitive to it. So it will get to the point where like a fucking a diverse character will show up or a female character will show up and everyone just immediately rolls their eyes and goes, oh, here we go, we're about to get lectured about the evils of the patriarchy or some crap like that. And it's got nothing to do with that. That's just caught in the crossfire. But yeah, companies like Sweet Baby Inc. have done a lot of damage to the video game industry and they are continuing to do it. This is the problem.
It's government funded. So that's something that's there was what I saw something the other day, right? Where some government agency it's like the national, it's what is it? Somebody in the chat, please. It's like the national security,
the NSA.
The NSA is asking companies to denounce Gamergate and all this weird stuff, and it's like, what does that have to do with the government? So
that's your tax dollars at work, everybody. Hope you're proud of that.
Oh my dude, I'm so well. Here we go. We're back to taxes again. Homeland Security. Thank you so much. Look at that. Where does that? Boop, there you are. Yeah, I was reading it the other day, and I'm trying to follow this stuff, but it's hard to follow. But like you said, all these things are getting caught in the crossfire. Like a black character just comes in and you're like, oh no, here we go. And then they die immediately, or like something bad happens and you're like, oh, okay, that's unexpected.
Well, yeah, because it got to the point where I was playing Dead Space 2, the remake of that. Great fun. I was having lovely fun stomping on necromorph skulls and flaming them to death and stuff. And there's like a sign at one point in the game for like a gender neutral bathroom. And people were going nuts over that, saying like, oh, proof that this game is woke as fuck. And it's not. It's just some stupid environmental asset that they put in. It didn't mean anything. And the rest of the game is just pure killing and gore and guns and stuff, like everything that you would expect from it. And that's an example of like the well being poisoned now when people are just hypersensitive to everything. And then it ends up being the boy who cried wolf, so that people overlook the complaints about genuine stuff that they try and work into these games. Like, well, Kill the Justice League was a good example where they kill off characters like Batman and turn his death into a joke, where he's just like lying over a park bench with his legs up in the air and they're like laughing about it. The Flash gets killed and like they're pissing on his corpse. And funnily enough, the only hero of the Justice League that gets like a properly heroic death where they feel sad about it is Wonder Woman. Funny that, isn't it? It's just, once you understand the rules and you see them in action, it's just the same thing over and over again. Like you see that they totally dictate how the story has to play out then.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, it's like when you see those checklists that are always leaked, and it's like a main character has to be 25% from a minority group, and it's like
Yep.
a plot has to 40% of the plot has to be dedicated to
meaningful representation of underrepresented groups.
Yeah, exactly.
Which straight up just means they have to be portrayed in a positive light.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's like they have to be smart. They have to be successful. They always have to be shown to be right about everything. That's it.
Yeah, and they keep taking characters out of wheelchairs. They did it with Davros when it came to Doctor Who, and they did it with somebody else recently. Or they're talking about it. So Giancarlo, I forget his name, man. Esposito. He wants to play Professor X, I think, but he says he doesn't want. He wants the script or whatever to be written to where he's not in a wheelchair. And I'm like, bro, like we got. Why are we trying to delete people in wheelchairs? What's this weird like erasure of disability?
Well, the Doctor Who one was particularly ridiculous because the line from Russell T Davies was, "We don't want to portray people in wheelchairs in a negative light, so we don't want to show them as villains." Right?
Yeah.
Because that associates disability with evil. And I just thought, you idiot, is that what you took from this? Is that what you took from it? Like, because Davros is in a wheelchair, like that just means that anyone in a wheelchair is automatically an evil genocidal maniac? Or is it because that particular person has ended up with that mindset, that view of the world, and gone down that route? And the fact that he's in a wheelchair is pretty much irrelevant to that. And if nothing else, the fact that he's in a wheelchair isn't an impediment to him being an extremely dangerous antagonist. Like, his physical disability doesn't hold him back from that. He's like one of the most dangerous people in the whole history of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he's in a wheelchair, right? It's like saying that people with disabilities can't have any agency over themselves. They have to just be portrayed and coddled as good people.
Yeah.
It's so infantilizing, and it's this veneer of compassion over just absolute bigotry. It's unbelievable that they get away with this.
Yeah, and I think it tells on Russell T Davies more than it tells on anybody else. Because if he thinks the reason that people look at Davros in a lot is because of a wheelchair, that's him seeing that. I never even noticed it. Like he's an evil.
It was like those people that said like, oh, the orcs from World of Warcraft are like black people.
Oh my god!
Like, what the fuck? Like that might be what you see, but no normal person ever saw that.
I have never in my I've watched through Lord of the Rings 1,000 times, and I remember reading that people were starting this whole narrative that the orcs, or the what are they called, the
Uruk-hai.
The Uruk-hai were they were offensive because they're black people, and I was like, what the fuck? I've never even thought of that in my life, that they were representing black. And look, I'm pretty cynical and like negative sometimes, and I can connect dots to a lot of things, but never once that I think that the orcs were supposed to be black. So that tells on the people creating this narrative way more than it actually does the creator's actual intent, like Tolkien.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane to me.
Yeah.
Black people, orcs, so silly. Taker.
It is so funny when people try to project modern sensibilities and modern ideology onto these classic pieces of fantasy literature.
Yeah.
Written in a far more innocent age when it was okay to just have good triumph against evil. Now you get these stupid conferences where it's like, let's talk about the queer representation of transgenderism in Tolkien's Gondor.
Yeah.
I guarantee you none of that ever crossed Tolkien's mind when he was writing these books. But these idiots have to project that crap onto it because it's like all they know. It's all they care about. And so it's all they see in anything that they consume.
It's probably more extreme from your perspective, because I've talked to people that are not necessarily in the creator lot. I've talked to people that are from other countries. I think I talked to somebody from Scotland recently, and it was like, I think it was through Instagram or something. They know somebody, and I think they're married to one of my friends. We were talking, and they said the strangest thing about like Western culture, specifically America, is everything about America is always hyper like focused on color and race. And they were like, I don't get that. Like, why is it America only talks about race in every conversation 100% of the time? You know, it's like we don't even think about that. If you're black, you're black. You're white. No one cares. And it's like, but in America, when you're in the contextual like conversation of America or like West in general, that's all people talk about and think about all the time, 100%. And I'm like, there. And I was trying to look from that perspective. I'm like, that is kind of weird, you know.
I mean, I suppose. Yeah, when you look at American history, obviously it's got a much more of an influence of, you know, the Civil War, the slave trade, all that stuff. Like it's more prevalent in American culture. There's a much higher population of African people in America than there would be in, like, say, the UK or Germany or somewhere like that in Europe. So it's more part of the conversation there, I suppose. But yeah, I don't understand the fixation on it at this point. It's like the more you shine a spotlight on it, the more you obsess over it, the more you stoke division rather than bringing people together.
Yeah. I think one of the most interesting points in my life that I can think of was when I was 11, 12 and 9/11 happened. You know, there was like the terrorist attack and planes going into buildings and shit. There was like an entire year period where all of like the race, sexual orientation, whatever, all that talk and focus was gone for like 2 years. Like everybody was like, we are in this together. And I guess, what is it? Good times create weak men. And I think that's what we're going through now is, to be fair, if you're in a Western country, you're in a good spot. And even if you're in poverty in a Western country, you're in a good spot, relatively speaking. And we've just let ourselves get to a point where there's nothing to talk about and there's nothing to be angry over. So we make up these instances of like, oh, we got to trans kids and we got to really make sure that these kids have their equal rights, because I don't know who was it England or what country just outlawed puberty blockers?
The UK.
The UK.
Yeah, here in the UK.
Crazy that it's happening in the UK first. So that's the weird thing is we have all these issues, and now since that's happening in the UK, because like to be fair, you know, puberty blockers that people there's a weird narrative that it's completely reversible. No, they're not. Sorry. They're just not. You can't just stop somebody from growing until they're 16 and then be like, all right, you can grow now. That's not how that works. That's like a fairy tale thing. But you have all these people so angry about it, especially people that don't even live in the UK. They live in America or something, and they're angry at the UK for doing a thing, which is the most reasonable thing you can really do. And it's because we just don't have anything to be angry over right now. So we create things to be angry over. You know, there's not really anything too negative in this country except for taxes. Let's be honest.
It's like a wine mom in her 40s who's living in a rich, you know, comfortable house and stuff, and she's got nothing to do each day but kind of drink and argue with people on social media. Yeah. You know, when you haven't got a struggle, you'll find one.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Maybe we need a good war or something.
God, see, you can't say it. You can't. Dude, I think about that shit all the time. I'm like, you know, I don't really want to say this, and I don't really know if I really believe this, but you know,
no, I joke though, but like not war, like, but some kind of I don't know, common struggle.
Yeah, you know, like bit. Maybe like a asteroid. I don't know, something. Yellowstone.
We need an Ivan Drago to strive against, you know, and we don't have it at the moment, and that's kind of the problem. And like to go back to your point there when you said that all those divisions and those petty grievances kind of took a back seat after 9/11. I remember that period. All of that stuff disappeared from media, from TV shows and stuff, and it became much more pro-America. It became much more patriotic, more unified. There was a lot more movies suddenly getting produced about the war on terror, obviously, because it was current. It would make sense. And I think that's what happens in times of conflicts. You kind of instinctively, like a society rushes towards conservatism because it's like seen as a steady hand in times of danger.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting piece of psychology, I suppose, how it works.
I'll never forget when I was in school, a week after 9/11, I'd walk in, the intercom would be playing music. And it would just play over and over that song, I'm proud to be an American. Where at least I know I'm free. It would play all day, every day. It was so silly, man. I was like a 12-year-old fat kid, and I'm like, why do they keep playing this song? It's so like, it's just so stupid to me. But yeah, at the time, and like I don't know, everybody was just it was
just a weird time. You know, I just graduated high school when 9/11 happened, and yeah, I just remember it. Seeing it on the news and seeing like, holy shit, like the world has just changed in a way that we probably don't even understand yet. And for the first time in probably my lifetime, because I was too young to remember like the Cold War and all that stuff, you were asking yourself, well, where are we heading next? This feels like we don't have a path ahead of us. Like, I have no idea where this is going to go. Is there going to be a world war? No idea.
Yeah.
It was a weird time.
Yeah, and now everyone feels just too damn safe. Taker says, I agree with Almond Drago's take on Sweet Baby Inc. If it dies, it dies. Thank you, Taker. I appreciate you.